welcome to Timeless. I'm Julie Hartman of Timeless with Julie Hartman, and also of Dennis and Julie, which is a show that you should also check out right here on the Julie Hartman YouTube channel. It's my show with Dennis Prager, apropos of the name. And you can also listen to any of these episodes on Apple and Spotify and anywhere you get your podcasts. Thanks for being with us. We've got Sean McConnell in the dungeon. Hello, Sean.
Yo.
Where's your pizza? You were just eating pizza a second ago. And
thanks so much for selling me out. I moved it out of the camera shot so I didn't look like a fat guy that has pizza around all the time. And what do?
Oh, there
you
it is.
blow up my spot.
There it is in the back.
Yeah, I was eating pizza. Look.
Yeah, that looks good.
Nothing's better than BJ's. Pizza.
Oh, my gosh. And this is why we keep his time on the air limited. You know, this is the problem with working in this office. There are so many good snacks all around. Dennis and I, as many of you know, who listen to Dennis and Julie, that we are obsessed with wonderful pistachios, but those are healthy compared to pizza. And then we have Trader Joe's cheese puffs all around here. It's a miracle that we are not heavier than we are. You know, today we're talking about the global shipping crisis, a pretty consequential topic. There's actually two global shipping crises going on. There's one over in the Middle East pertaining to the Red Sea because the Houthi rebels are firing missiles and drones into the Red Sea, targeting commercial vessels. And then there's another one going on in Central America at the Panama Canal. But before we get into that, I want to talk about something really fast, which is equally consequential as the issue that we are talking about. It is of equal importance as the global shipping crisis, and that is that I'm not wearing any eye makeup today. I actually was told by my doctor not to wear eye makeup because I have a little sty on my eye. Now, you are probably wondering, as I can tell from Sean's face, who's also wondering, why am I acknowledging this, right? Like, wasn't
that a Dr. Seuss book? I have a sty on my eye.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Okay, this is my problem. I'm very gullible. Oh. You just saw a personality trait of me on the air. I totally believed you. I'm really gullible. I'm actually trying to work on it. Dennis does this to me all the time. He'll like deliver a joke that's totally deadpan, and I will literally fall for it.
But just so you know, and everyone in you look amazing. I think you look fine without makeup. It's in your head.
Well, let me say something. The reason why I'm acknowledging this is probably something that maybe I should just let go and not acknowledge to people. But the reason why I'm doing it is I was just looking at myself. And as weird as it sounds, I actually think I may look better without eye makeup. And the reason I'm throwing this out there is I want the audience to comment. I invite you to objectify my body. I want you to tell me.
Oh, here we go.
No, I'm actually very interested because it looks, I have foundation on and I have a little bit of blush and bronzer because, you know, I don't want everybody to see every single blemish on my face. And with these lights, it's pretty stark. But looking at the monitor, I actually think it may look more natural. And by the way, and we will get to the global shipping crisis, I promise you. We won't just talk about this for the entire episode. I have a bone to pick with you, Sean. And I have a bone to pick with you and every single person in the dungeon because we have 4 other male producers in that room. Not a dungeon. It is a dungeon. It's a pizza haven dungeon. On a recent episode of Timeless called Euthanasia, about young people in China, about medically assisted suicide. Oh God. I was watching that. I went home and I watched the episode, which I actually rarely do. And I'm realizing that I should more often because speaking of makeup, I was looking at myself and there was a smudge
I saw
of
that.
mascara.
I saw that. I know, but I didn't want to stop you.
Why
and I didn't
wouldn't
want
you
you to be
stop me?
self-conscious. Because how are you? I thought, how do you fix that? There's no way to fix that.
Of course there's a way to fix it. I have my makeup bag right over there. I don't know if we can get a wide shot of the set. I have my makeup bag right over there. And what you do, I have makeup remover, and we can take a Q-tip and just deal with it. I would have rather you paused me so that I could fix it. So I'm watching myself, delivering all these facts, having a great conversation with you, and I'm looking down at my notes, and there's literally like a brown ball on my eye.
Now, here's my theory. My theory is most people forgive you for that. I don't think
okay.
anyone stopped and said, I can't listen to her anymore because of that thing on her eye.
Obviously, that is true, or at least I hope that would be true.
That
but
was
you
why I
want to
didn't
look
say
your
anything.
best.
That's why I didn't stop you, because you were on a
my
roll. It was a
gosh.
good show, aside from the thing that was
It is
a
such
wee
a quick
bit
fix.
distracting.
Well, this is what I'm doing from now on. I'm watching myself to make sure that there's nothing on my eye.
If I was
That's why I'm
worried
looking at
about
myself
looks,
on the
Julie,
monitor.
I wouldn't be here. Look at this.
You're so self-deprecating.
Come on. Well, let's be honest. I look
Oh,
like,
come on,
you know,
Sean.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Compared to
please.
me.
Next time, please tell me.
know?
And
I
I'm
will.
very
I
sorry
just-
to all of you watching whose vision was assaulted by that terrible thing. I am aware of it, and we're fixing it. And today we're really fixing it because I didn't put any mascara on, which is, by the way, so nice. I hate putting makeup on. You wouldn't understand, Sean, because you're a guy, but it's really not fun.
Okay.
right.
Panama.
Panama. Let's get down to it. So, as I said, there are these two global shipping crises going on, one in the Middle East and one in Central America. So let's start with talking about what's going on in the Red Sea. And because I'm not Claudine Gay, I'm going to cite my source, and I'm also going to provide a link of my source in the description box down below. And it is actually, believe it or not, the New York Times.
Ding. Julie Hartman. Not gay.
Oh my gosh, I know, we're making that a thing. I need to stop referencing her. That's going to be a new Timeless with Julie Hartman merch. So, yes, this is according to reporting by the New York Times. You know what? You got to give credit when credit's due. I am not a New York Times fan. I've done shows on this very program about how the New York Times is not the most trustworthy and objective publication. In fact, recently I posted about this on my Instagram, which you can follow me at Julie R. Hartman. They in a front page headline, they called October 7th a raid. A raid! It's unbelievable. Anyways, I am not a huge fan of the New York Times. However, you have to give credit where credit is due, and they did really good reporting on this. So let's look at what this is a synopsis of their reporting. So the Red Sea, let's pull up a map. Map number 1 of the Red Sea. It is a sea in the Middle East, which is a big hub for trading. So a lot of commercial vessels go through the Suez Canal, which is at the top, or the Gulf of Aden, which is at which is at the bottom. And they go through the Red Sea to either get from Europe down in there over to the Middle East and then through to Asia, or vice versa, from Asia to the Middle East through the Red Sea to Europe. This prevents people, this is a shortcut for ships to take so that they don't have to go all around down to South Africa across the whole continent of Africa. According to the New York Times, 12% of the world's oil is carried by tankers through the Red Sea, and a similar percentage of liquefied natural gas is transported through the Red Sea. That's from the New York Times, but according to the United States Energy Information Administration. So what's happening right now is, if we pull up the map again, we can see that Yemen is a country which is right bordering the Red Sea. And what's going on is that there are these Houthi Shiite rebels in Yemen, and because they are Shiite and because they are rebels and because they are anti-Israel, they are being backed by Shiite Iran. There are these Houthi rebels who, in their effort to stop the quote-unquote genocide going on in Gaza at the hands of Israel, obviously there's not a genocide going on, but this is what they think, to stop the occupation. Again, I don't view it as an occupation, but that is what they think. They are firing missiles and drones into Israel and into the Red Sea to disrupt global shipping to get their message across. And it's getting across because it is disrupting what is going on there. So according, again, to the New York Times, in the first 2 weeks of January of 2023, so last year, there were around 400 ships that passed through the Red Sea in those 2 weeks carrying oil and other commercial items. During the first 2 weeks of January 2024, this year, a year later, that number was cut down to 150. So there's over a 50% decrease in the amount of ships that are passing through the Suez Canal. This is important. This is up top. The Suez Canal going through the Red Sea. That's according to marine traffic cited by the New York Times. And so the Houthis are targeting not just Israeli or American vessels or British vessels, although they have said, the Houthi spokesperson said that, quote, all American and British ships are enemy targets. They are targeting a lot of different vessels because, again, they just want to, in general, disrupt global shipping. And because our supply chains are so interconnected, everyone is harmed by that and are going to have an incentive, they think, to bow down to the Houthis' demands in order for these drone and missile strikes to stop. According, again, to the New York Times, you see how diligent I am about citing my sources, there was actually one ship called the Galaxy Leader. It is a car carrier, and it had a Filipino crew. It was hijacked by the Houthi rebels, and 25 members of that Filipino crew were taken to Yemen, where they are still currently being held. So that is especially upping up the ante. Obviously, firing missiles and drones at commercial ships is enough, but seizing an actual 25-person crew is, obviously a big deal. So JP Morgan Chase estimates that these Houthi disruptions, if they continue over the next 6 months, the first half of the year of 2024, they estimate that this will increase the prices of consumer goods by 0.7%, which isn't a lot, but isn't insignificant, obviously. Okay, so what's really happening is that fewer commercial vessels are going through here, and the costs of shipping for those vessels are going up, and there's delays in the amount of time that they take to go to their destination because they are taking alternate routes. They are literally going around the entire continent of Africa in order to avoid the Red Sea. Let's put up map number 2, which is the New York Times illustration, which, again, got to give them credit. This is a very good job. Look at that. All of the different routes that these ships are taking in order to avoid the Red Sea. Okay. So that's what's going on in the Middle East. There's another shipping crisis. Sometimes when it rains, it pours. It would be enough to have one, and there's two.
It's ironic that you said that, because if it would rain,
I know,
we wouldn't have such a problem.
Exactly.
Down in Panama.
In Panama. So this is going on at the Panama Canal. For those who don't know, the Panama Canal is another shortcut, essentially, for shipping. Let's pull up a map number 3, in Central America, so that people don't have to go all around the continent of South America. If those on the east coast of the United States want to get to the west coast of South America, they cut through Panama. Vice versa, the west coast of the United States wants to get to the east coast of South America. Their ships cut through Panama. It's also a way for the east coast of the United States to get to Asia without going around the entire continent, and the way for the west coast of the United States to get to Europe. Boy, that was a riddle, right? In other words, it's very important, okay? So 5% of global ocean trade goes through the Panama Canal. 40% of U.S. container traffic goes through the Panama Canal. And because I'm a girl who cites my sources, I got a lot of this information from a great YouTube video, which I'm also going to link in the description down below. It is called Why the Panama Canal is Dying. Great YouTube video. Sean McConnell may or may not have sent it to me, even though he doesn't tell me when my makeup is smudged. He does sometimes give me good resources for my shows, and that's the only credit
Julie
he gets.
Hartman, not gay.
All right. It's also a strategic place for the United States Navy. In fact, we built the Panama Canal. We commenced building it in 1903, and then in 1979, the year of the Iranian Revolution, just wanted to throw that out there for people's context, even though it doesn't have something directly to do with the Panama Canal. Then President Carter decided to hand over some of the control to Panama. And then from 1979 to the year I was born, 1999, to give you some bookmarks, we, the United States, jointly administered the Panama Canal alongside Panama. And then for basically my whole lifetime, from 1999 till now, the Panamanian government controls the Panama Canal. So what's going on right now, as Sean alluded to, is that there is a rain problem. The way that the Panama Canal works depends very much on rain because it's a very cool design. I'm not going to even attempt to explain it because you kind of need to see it visually. So those who are listening, I encourage you to watch and look at a video. But basically, the Panama Canal is sort of on a low plane and the ship needs to rise up to get across the Panama Canal. So they have this interesting way of like pumping water to raise ships.
It's a series of locks.
Yes.
And it fills each lock with, I think, 30 feet of lake water to raise the ship, and then it raises it again and maybe 2 or 3 times before it can travel across land, and then it has to do the opposite on the other side to lower it down to ocean level.
Right, and the lake water that uses it on one end is funneled into the ocean, so you need lake water in order to support it. Lucky for us, we have a video of it because clearly we're not doing the best job explaining it. It's hard to explain. Let's roll number 4.
This marvel of civil engineering uses a clever locking arrangement to lift passing ships by almost 20 meters in order to safely transport them across the canal.
So you see there that the lake water on the other side kind of goes back down into the ocean. And so you need not constant rainfall, but you need a robust level of rainfall in order to replenish the lakes to make this raising mechanism work. And so unfortunately, in October of this past year, October of 2023, there was a 41% decrease in the amount of rainfall that Panama saw versus that time last year. And so lakes are going down in the surrounding region by over 3 meters, which is several feet, like 18 feet, I believe. Sean, I encourage you to look it up so we're precise.
Maybe you're going to get to this, but it's not just the canal that the lack of water is a problem for. The Panamanians themselves get their drinking water from these lakes. And so there's a real trade-off there. Do we give our people water? Do we limit the amount of ships? Go ahead. I'm sure you're going to get to that.
No, it's fine.
I don't want to get ahead of
you.
you.
Do the rest of the episode for me.
No, please. Go ahead.
No, I'm kidding. No, it's a good thing to bring up right now, which is, yes, that the Panamanian people get a lot of their drinking water from this rain. And so there's already such a decrease and they need it in order to give it to the Panama Canal because a lot of the country's GDP is because of the use of the Panama Canal. I mean, it's a great way for the Panamanian government to make money so its people are benefited, but people need to drink water.
They're one of the top-rated economic countries in South America.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So they have this issue with not being able to... Central America, yes, with not being able to, or having to decide basically how to allocate the water that they do have, and it's much less than they usually do. And also, it is, even if they were directing a lot of it towards replenishing the Panama Canal, it actually isn't sufficient. And so what they've had to do is they've had to decrease the amount of ships that go through the canal every day. So the average amount of ships that went through on a given day before this crisis was 36 a day. Then they had to lower that about a month ago or 2 months ago to 24 a day. And now they're decreasing it to 10 a day. So that's over a third of what it once was. So there are fewer ships going through the Panama Canal. There are fewer ships that are going through the Red Sea. In the Red Sea, they're going around the continent of Africa to get where they need to go. The Panama Canal, they're going around the continent of South America. That's jacking up prices. That's jacking up wait times. And it's certainly just causing headaches at the very least for those of us who, depend on these global supplies. Also, there are wait times for these ships in order to get where they need to go. In November 2023, the average wait time for a ship without a reservation to get into the Panama Canal, it's like a fancy restaurant. You need to reserve your spot. The average wait time.
DuPont party of 12.
Yeah, exactly.
DuPont.
By the way, Dennis told me he's been through the Panama Canal, which is really, really cool. I would love to be on a ship that does that. It's on one of my bucket lists. But the wait time for the posh Panamanian Canal was 2 days if you didn't have a reservation. Now it's 11 and a half days. So a lot of people are going, why would we wait? That's a similar amount of time it takes to just go around the entire continent of South America.
18 days to travel around through the bottom.
18 days, okay. Yes. It's a similar amount of time. And so what's happening is that obviously this is a problem, but people are trying to come up with alternatives, which is obviously a good thing in many ways to have an alternative, but it can also open some doors to some issues.
And before you move on to that, which is where you need to go, it's not just the time it takes to go around, it's the cost of fuel.
Totally. Yep.
That raises the prices. Okay. All right.
Yep. No, you're right. Thank you. Before we continue, I want to quickly tell you about My Pillow. I used a lot of My Pillow products, the slippers, the towels, the pillow, the Giza Dream bed sheets. I told you I really meant it when I said a lot. And you can get a lot of these products, too, at a discount when you use the promo code Hartman or call 1-800-566-6745. Now, obviously, My Pillow is known for the pillow, but they didn't stop at the pillow. They also created the aforementioned Giza Dream bed sheets, which I sleep on. They look great, they feel great, they come in a variety of sizes and colors, and they facilitate a better night's sleep, which all of us need. My Pillow found the world's best cotton called Giza. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. If you get these sheets, they come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. You'll get them for 50% off at $29.98. That's $29.98 if you go to mypillow.com and click on the radio podcast square and use the promo code Hartman, or call 1-800-566-6745 and use the promo code Hartman. There you will get not only this great offer, but also deep discounts on all My Pillow products, including the My Pillow 2.0 mattress topper, My Pillow kitchen towel sets, now even flannel sheets, and so much more. Again, just go to mypillow.com and make sure you use the promo code Hartman. So people are seeking alternatives, and alternatives are obviously good, but also it depends on who is in charge of these infrastructure projects, because once somebody is, building your infrastructure, you're kind of beholden to them. So let's look at number 5, a map of South America, and I'll talk about some of the alternatives which are being proposed. One of them is almost a railroad, or a very well paved road right through the middle of South America, so that ships can kind of go down the east or west coast of South America, unload, transport their goods across to meet on the other side. Now, the problem with that is that there are a lot of mountains in the continent of South America, and it's very, difficult to traverse those roads. So that's one alternative. Another alternative is in Mexico. They want to build a railway right kind of in the middle of the country of Mexico to do a similar thing, to have, ships meet on the other side to continue their journey. And then there was a proposal which didn't come through, which didn't pan out, but I want to tell you about it because it sort of gets to what I'm talking about alternatives.
Before you go on to that.
Yes.
Which is important.
By the way, this is Timeless with Julie Hartman and Timeless with Sean McConnell.
No, I'm time. Yeah, I'm time.
We need to add your name.
No, as you
to the show.
Look,
Sounds like I'm being shady. I'm not. I love your input.
No, the reason that these things haven't been done in South America is the terrain.
That's what I said.
There's tremendous jungles. There's the Andes Mountains. There are places where you can't. They don't have connecting roads from one country to another. Did you say that? Oh.
Well, I said it's a mountainous region and it's difficult to traverse.
Well, okay, there's many reasons, but that's why it hasn't been done.
Yes, it's very difficult to do, very costly, and an arduous experience. So this is a proposal that didn't pan out, but illustrates my point and concern about these projects. There was a proposal in Nicaragua to have a kind of throughway. Again, let's pull up the map just really fast. Nicaragua is actually a thinner, if you will, smaller country, so it would be much easier to have these goods be traversed across the landscape. Also, it is not as mountainous as the other countries. You can see there it's quite small. And so in 2012, another country came to the country of Nicaragua and said, hey, we would like to create an alternative to the Panama Canal in your country. Take a wild guess. Which country wanted to come in and build an alternative in the Panama Canal in Nicaragua? Take a wild guess. Who's doing this literally everywhere? Yeah, Pakistan. No? Indonesia. Laos. The state of Oklahoma. The state of Oklahoma. China. China. They are on the prowl, those people. So in 2012, the Nicaraguan government actually contracted a deal with the Hong Kong Nicaragua Development Company, which got the rights to be the sole operator for 50 years of this alternative to the Panama Canal in Nicaragua. Now, it didn't pan out because actually that company, the Hong Kong Nicaragua Development Company, lost a lot of money. It basically went bankrupt, so it didn't pan out. But it shows you that the Chinese have been looking at this for some time now. They have got their eyes on the prize, and they understand that this would be a big boon for them to be the people who create and thus control one of the most vital shipping and good transporting places in the Western Hemisphere. So we're going to get back to that. But I want to zoom out and talk about geopolitical relationships to consider. With the Red Sea shipping issue, it's Iran. And then I would say with the Panama Canal Western Hemisphere issue, it is China. Let's go back to Iran, but they're kind of linked, right? Because Iran and China are in a very close partnership. China just brokered a deal about a year ago between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Those two countries were historically adversarial, and they had established diplomatic ties thanks to Beijing. China and Iran are in the BRICS economic community together. Iran is also a part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is a organization that was created by China, a political entity to essentially rival NATO or rival other political entities that are Western centered. China buys a lot of Iran's oil. Iran also supports China in its endeavors. They are very much friends. So these are very linked. We have to show strength with both of these countries. Otherwise, these crises or similar ones are going to continue. And I'm not saying that the entire issue here is that we haven't shown appropriate strength. It's part of the issue, but obviously, the Houthis are kind of in a category of their own. Certainly we can't control the rainfall that's going on in Panama, but if we have a good relationship with these countries, or if we show strength with regard to these countries, it'll make it more likely that many of these issues, I think, are alleviated. So let's look at a bit of the history of how we kind of got to this point in the Red Sea. And of course, as I say, it's not the entire story, but we have allowed Iran to back these Houthis and get away with this and kind of do a lot of what they want to do in the region, which led us to this point. So first of all, we have given massive amounts of money to the state of Iran over the past 5 to 6 months. In September of 2023, on September 11th, actually, of all days, President Biden announced that his administration was unfreezing $6 billion of South Korean assets that would go through Qatar to the Islamic Republic of Iran in order to free 5 prisoners that the Iranian government was holding. And so it's complicated. It wasn't a direct, money transfer from the United States to Iran, but essentially this money is going to Iran, but just through the intermediary of Qatar, okay? So that was in September. Then the greatest attack in Israel's history, the greatest terrorist attack, occurs on October 7th. It was found that Iran heavily orchestrated and aided Hamas in executing this terrorist attack. They gave approval for this attack in Beirut to Hamas a few weeks before the attack happened. And so you would think that especially after an event like that, we would not give more money to one of our principal adversaries and the orchestrator of such an attack. But instead, the Biden administration deemed it to be wise to unfreeze $10 billion more in assets to go to the Iranian government, this time by unfreezing Iraqi assets to go to them. So from Iran's perspective, what do you think they're thinking? They're going, hey, this is great. We can do whatever we want. We can orchestrate the largest terrorist attack in Israel, a Western country. We can drag the Middle East into war. and the Biden administration will give us billions and billions of more dollars. And so it empowers them to continue their bad behavior. And then we see that a month later, commencing in December of 2023 and continuing to now, these Houthis are going off. They are funded and backed by Iran. They're firing the missiles and drones into the Red Sea. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we have been very lackadaisical with punishing Iran, in fact, helping Iran, and then they feel emboldened to do this. In addition to the Houthi strikes, Iran has also supported proxy attacks on United States troops in the region. We know, obviously, that last month in January, 3 U.S. service members were killed at a base in Jordan. That was because of an Iranian drone strike. But since October of last year, there have been over 165 proxy attacks on U.S. forces in the Middle East. Several troops have suffered from traumatic brain injuries. One U.S. Navy pilot on Christmas Day was the victim of such an attack, and he is still in a coma. And we have not done a lot to punish or counter that activity. We did start retaliating in the wake of the most recent strike on the 3 U.S. service members in Jordan. We did start to retaliate against the Iranians. In fact, again, giving credit where credit is due, yesterday, on December 7th, 2024, a U.S. drone strike in Baghdad killed a high-ranking commander of the Kataib Hezbollah militia, essentially the Iranian militia, which was responsible for carrying out that drone strike against U.S. service members. So we have done something, but overall, by giving Iran money, by allowing the Houthis to do what they are doing, and to allow these proxy attacks with very minimal retaliation on U.S. soldiers, we have contributed to this environment of these rebels in the Middle East essentially doing whatever they want to do. In fact, just a few days ago, the Houthis fired 6 anti-ship ballistic missiles at commercial vessels in the Red Sea. 3 of those anti-ballistic missiles went to a Greek-owned and operated ship. They actually crashed in the water near the ships, and one of our United States anti-aircraft carriers shot down one of the missiles, and then the remaining 3 were targeting a UK cargo ship. But just shows you they're continuing to do what they do. So what we need to do is continue the strikes. Credit to us for taking out that individual in Baghdad, but we've got to continue the Houthi strikes and I think step them up. We've got to Qasem Soleimani these people. I'm referring, of course, to the assassination of the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps that was carried out by President Donald Trump in 2020. And also, rhetoric is not everything, obviously. You need to follow up rhetoric with action. But I think rhetoric and showing through your words, your actions, your tone, your eye contact, that you are taking this seriously, I think symbolically that is very important for adversarial countries to see. Let's just watch a quick video of the way that President Biden announced his intended response to the Houthis, and then we'll compare that to when Iran was drone striking proxy targets on U.S. soldiers in the Middle East, and the way that Trump a few years ago communicated his desire to retaliate.
And we shall respond.
Versus,
we will find you, we will eliminate you, we will always protect our diplomats, service members, all Americans, and our allies.
Again, obviously, you got to follow up your words with actions, and some credit to President Biden when he is doing that. However, this whole aiding Iran, giving them billions of dollars, and turning a blind eye when they have done a lot of these things has contributed to this situation. So we have got to make sure that we are strong with Iran, with the Red Sea stuff. And with China, we have to make sure that we're strong as far as alternatives to shipping routes, okay? Because what China does, and we saw this with an example with Nicaragua, but we see it all around the world, is that China makes it its job to, quote unquote, industrialize, aka buy off, other countries. And it's a really brilliant strategy because instead of invading countries or instead of doing what Iran is doing, which is supporting, rebels in targeting missiles and drones at adversaries, China does it in a more insidious way by ingratiating themselves to people and going, hey, I'm going to help you out. But as my dear mother says, nothing in life is for free. It comes with strings attached. And we see all around the world, this is what China is doing. So China actually is very overt about this. They launched what is called the Belt and Road Initiative 10 years ago. It's a $1 trillion global infrastructure project. And they said, literally, this is a quote from the Chinese government, that their goal is to, quote, accelerate the reform of the global governance system. They call it One Belt, One Road. Essentially, China wants to be the global hegemon and have an economic and political foothold in all of these countries to, again, reform the global government system to make it one belt, one road, manned and operated and overseen by China. They go into these countries, they go into Iran, and they have built railroads in Iran. They reindustrialized, rebuilt the Ayatollah Khomeini International Airport in Tehran. They go even into Western countries. They went into Hungary, and they're opening a Chinese university in Budapest. Italy was a part of the Belt and Road Initiative. 150 countries out of the 193 UN-membered countries in the world are part of the Belt and Road Initiatives. They are the recipients of China's infrastructure projects. That's like 70% of the world. To give another example, China has a very strong foothold in South America, not just in places like Nicaragua, but also in Colombia. They have gone in, and Xi Jinping has a very good relationship with Gustavo Petro, the president of Colombia, and has helped with COVID vaccines, helped with paving roads, and, of course, helped with building a railroad. China also buys terminals at ports all around the world, everywhere, in Western countries and non-Western countries alike. Actually, the majority of European countries, the majority, almost all of the countries in Southeast Asia, many, especially coastal countries in South America and in Africa, China is buying ports at. And when you buy terminals at ports. And when you buy shipping terminals at ports, what does that do? That allows China to oversee and control elements of economic activity, and it allows them to have an excuse to place their army. And we know, according to congressional reports, that the People's Liberation Army, the Army of China, their numbers have swelled to millions of people. I think 2.2 million people are in the PLA, which is a huge increase from a decade before. So in this conversation about shipping problems and about alternatives, as rainfall may be affecting the Panama Canal, as we're looking globally at our economic supply chains, it really is important for us to, again, have a strong relationship with these countries. And I'm not necessarily saying strong like we have to be buddies with them, but we have to make them fear us. And we have to not allow them to just go in and do whatever they want.
So can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Yes.
China's going around doing all this stuff.
Yes.
Why is that any different than when America built the Panama Canal? And I have a possible answer, and that is, you said it earlier, that Jimmy Carter, according to the contract, relinquished control of the Panama Canal and gave it back. And I guess my fear would be, how dangerous is it for China to control global shipping, and would they relinquish control? Do they have these kind of contracts built with these other countries to step back and relinquish power?
No, it's a great point, and I'm not trying to say that everything the United States has done economically, globally, militarily has been great, and we, obviously that hasn't been the case. But with regard to the Panama Canal, yes, Jimmy Carter did allow the Panamanian government to have joint and then full control of the canal. China operates very differently. China wants to be the only leader in town. And again, obviously in the past, we haven't always been great, but China is a totally different ballgame. They want complete control. I mean, look at what they're doing in the United States. They're spying on us. They're seizing our data with TikTok and WeChat. They're sending over spy balloons. They're sending fentanyl into this country. They opened a spy base on Cuba. They're buying off our leaders. This is a level of infiltration that they are open about. They want to control global governance. We have never in our history said that we want to control global governance. We have to really, listen to the alarm bells being sounded when we have a hegemon like China who's saying that they want to do that and following through with their actions. Now, it is important to note that China is facing a lot of problems. They have a demographic collapse, or at least an impending one. India recently took over China as the most populous country in the world. China has about 1.4 billion people. India is a little bit over that. And because of the one-child policy, most of China's population is a lot older. And in the next 30 to 40 years, their population is expected to be half of what it is now. So they have a demographic problem. They actually are also having a lot of economic problems because people are seeing the hegemonic ambitions of China, and companies like Apple, which was very much operating in China, has pulled out many of its factories in China and tried to diversify their supply chains. A lot of China's youth, 20% of youth in Chinese cities aged 18 to 24 are unemployed. So China's having issues. It's not as some people would say that they are not as huge of a threat as they used to be. However, if they are having these issues, I think that may make them more likely to behave rashly and to behave fast and think of themselves as having a shorter timetable to accomplish what they want to accomplish. And so, again, we just need to be on the lookout as supply chains, as economic situations are shifting, that they may want to seize the opportunity to control that.
And we should pray for rain in Panama.
Yes, we should.
Yeah.
And by the way, a lot of people are saying that this is due to climate change. I mean, perhaps that is true. I'm, believe it or not a climate change denier, but I was actually emailing with someone who's an expert on climate change, and he believes in climate change. I had him on the show. His name is Steve Gorham. He doesn't think that climate change is the existential threat that many people are saying it is. And he was telling me that in this region, it is pretty customary for rain patterns to fluctuate. Kind of just how it works. The climate changes, but the climate also gets moody and goes through phases, and sometimes wants to show up and sometimes wants to not show up. Kind of like you and me. On that note, thanks for being with me. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think, especially about the most pressing issue, the makeup. Be very curious to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you soon. Take care.